Second item on our Sunday Six is our Victory Unlocked. It's brought to you by Zillow, agents, tours, loans, homes. And the Minnesota Vikings might be the biggest winners of Sunday because they are still alive for the number one seed. Philadelphia Eagles officially eliminated from number one seed consideration, but they are still plenty big winners in their own right. They host the Cowboys early on Sunday and just crush them 41-7 to officially wrap up the NFC East. That loss to Washington kept things interesting for 7 more days, but with a laugher of a win against Dallas, they secure the division, and they are now locked in to the number 2 seed in the NFC. An impressive game all around, and I think the most impressive part is just when you talk about the depth of this Philadelphia roster. We already knew they weren't going to have Jalen Hurts. He's still recovering from the concussion he suffered against Washington. So Kenny Pickett gets the start. Not an inspiring performance, but he goes 10 for 15 for a touchdown. He leads Philly on 3 scoring drives. And when you include a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson pick six, Kenny Pickett had the Eagles sitting on 24 points early in the third quarter when he injured his ribs and exited. So now you get down to the third quarterback. Tanner McKee comes in, and all he does is complete 3 out of 4 for 54 with 2 touchdowns. Dime touchdown passes, by the way, bullets to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. This one turns into a laugher, and it just goes to show how many playmakers are on this Eagles roster when you can lose not just your starter, but your backup quarterback and still put up 40 points. That's what I had a chance to talk about with Joe Davis and Greg Olson when I caught up with him after the game. Well, guys, I guess when you clinch the division, you take it any way you can get it. But what does it say about the talent on this roster when you can put up a performance like that with your third quarterback on the field?
Well, we said it coming in. If there's ever a position for a backup quarterback to thrive, it's this one. There's just so much talent on the field still.
Yeah, again, 2 weeks in a row, we've been very clear. This is probably from top to bottom the best roster in football. Now, when it gets to playoff times, we'll see how it all shakes out. But for you to be able to get onto your third quarterback and kind of weather that storm, they have their offensive line. They have probably one of the best skill units in football. And then after a disappointing loss last week, the defense gets right back on track. This was the Philly defense we had seen over that 10-game win streak, and they put it all together at the right time here today at home.
Saquon Barkley goes over 2,000 rushing yards. I'm curious. I mean, maybe this is a question without an answer, but you look at the way he can grind on you and wear a defense down as the game goes. Is the answer to this just to be good enough on offense to keep him off the field? Because otherwise, I'm just not sure how you do it.
Yeah, I think so. So much of run defense is I just can't put you in a position to be able to run the ball at me. But where it gets a little tricky with Philly, similar to like the Ravens and stuff, it's the explosive runs that now kind of are more like a pass. So that's the element where, yes, playing from a lead would certainly help, and you just can't let Saquon bust off the big ones. If he's going to 4 or 5 yard you to death, you can kind of live with that, make him go the long way. But when they have the explosive pass and the explosive run, it just becomes so hard to defend for really anybody in the league.
Eagles rebound from that loss to Washington in style, and they win the NFC East. Guys, I appreciate it as always. Take care.
All right, Dave.
Appreciate it, Dave.
There's no shortage of game balls you can hand out when you crush a rival to clinch the division. I'm just glad Tanner McKee got his. Maybe one of the funniest quirks from this game is that A.J. Brown catches a touchdown from Tanner McKee, his first NFL touchdown. And in the heat of the moment, he's so excited. He launches that thing, I'm watching it right now, into the second deck, realizes his mistake on the sideline. I'm sure he felt terrible about it. Never fear, AJ. That's what the Eagles have Big Dom for. What doesn't Big Dom do? He runs over the sideline. He gets the fan to throw the ball back. AJ eventually winds up trading a signed jersey for the first touchdown. All's well that ends well. It's just that type of day. Like I said, when you score 40 against the Cowboys to clinch the division, AJ Brown had himself a day. Devontae Smith had 2 touchdowns in this game. The good feeling is off the charts. Again, the Eagles are so funny because one week we're debating how much their players like each other and whether they can, get on the same page enough to go on a run. And then you have a game like this. AJ with 3 for 36 and a touchdown. Devontae for 120 and 2 touchdowns. My man gets his signed jersey instead of the Tanner McKee game ball. And yet, with all of that other stuff going on, if we here on the pod are handing out a game ball, it's got to start with Saquon Barkley, who gets himself a game ball figuratively. He also just got the ball literally in this game. Eagles fed him the rock 31 times. That's the highest carry count of his season, and it's tied for the third highest number of his NFL career. It's almost like the Eagles know that he's chasing some milestones, and he repays that with 167 yards. And honestly, what I loved about it, it's not possible to have a quiet 167, but this is what it would look like, I guess. We've seen Saquon Barkley take over games with 68-yard touchdowns, taking it to the house from the logo, chunk play after chunk play. This was not that. Saquon's long on the day was just 23 yards. Again, 31 carries. It was a very workmanlike performance, just 3 explosive runs, but he just kept chipping away. I love that. Every single time he got the ball, even if it wasn't a huge gain, it's 2, it's 4, it's 4, it's 8, it's 11, it's 4, it's 6, it's 23. When you break contain off of right tackle and turn what looked like a small gain into a scoot around the edge up the sideline for 23 yards, he earned every blade of grass he got against the Cowboys. And when it was over, he was sitting on 2,005 rushing yards for the season. He is just the 9th NFL running back to rush for 2,000 or more yards. An absolutely incredible season continues. Still got some work to do, but when he caught up with our Pam Oliver afterward, you could tell it meant a lot to him.
Topping that 2,000-yard mark, how much are you living a dream right now, Saquon?
Yeah, I can't lie. It's amazing. It was fun. It was fun being out there with those guys and to be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do that with the O-line, the wide receivers, and the tight end. But at the end of the day, the most important thing was to get a win, clinch the division, and Kenny Pickett came up big for us, and Tanner came in and made some big plays.
I wish you could have seen offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland as you ran past him. He was exuberant, just jubilant. That just speaks to the offensive line and the job that they've done. Put that in perspective for him.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, my name would be the one that goes across with 2,000. But like I said, you can't do it with those guys. And that's something that we said from the beginning. We want to do something special. And, they did all the work. I just followed them, and they made me look a lot better.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Saquon signed in Philly for 3 years, $37.5 million. And when you factor in the price, the profile of Saquon Barkley, the fact that he was coming down the highway from New York to play for a division rival, the expectations were high. Safe to say, they've been met and then some. Obviously, I'm not going to try to predict how the playoffs go here, but regardless, he has delivered so much on the potential. In your wildest dreams, Eagles fans, I don't think you would have thought he'd be sitting on 2,000 yards with 1 week still to go. And now the question is, how much further does he go if he goes anywhere at all in this regular season? Saquon needs 101 yards against the Giants, ironically, in the season finale to set the NFL rushing record that Eric Dickerson has held since 1984. The problem is, that's about the only reason why Saquon Barkley would play in this game. I said it earlier, but with 13 wins and with Minnesota beating Green Bay, Philly's locked in on the 2 seed. They can't get the 1. They can't fall further than 2. There's not a ton of incentive to play your stars in this season finale against the New York Giants, unless it means that much to you for Saquon to set the record. And I'm going to step out on a limb. I think he can, and I think that he would. Saquon has rushed for more than 101 yards in 11 of Philly's games this season against a Giants team that I know they won Sunday. We'll get to that later on the show. But a Giants team that's given up plenty of rushing yards, that doesn't have anything to play for themselves, it's doable. It's just the question of why would you do it? I think the Eagles are likely to sit their starters, but history being so close, you can taste it. Maybe that gives this a little bit of intrigue. On top of that, Jalen Hurts didn't play this week. Do you want him going into the playoffs with 2 weeks off, assuming he's available? Maybe the powers that be in Philly decide to give Jalen and Saquon a few series to make sure they're primed and ready for the postseason. I lean toward probably not, though. I think having those guys healthy is probably more important than whatever you might attain in this final game. But it sure is intriguing. 101 yards shy of NFL history, of one of the most highly regarded records in football. And even the fact that it's a conversation we're having just goes to show how great of a signing this was, delivering on the expectations and then some.